Hello, All Age Arts. Thank you for joining. We're going to do state flowers today. And sometimes art, we have reasons for making art. So I have a reason for making this art. I want to represent states of family members or loved ones that live in this state in my artwork. Or maybe you're doing a state project. This would be a great project. You can do vertical or horizontal composition. We're going to be talking about open and closed composition. We will talk about contrast for today's artwork, thick and thin line, light and dark color. These are great ways to add contrast to our artwork. And we will go over materials next. So I'm excited to do some artwork. Thank you for joining me today. Oh, I'm Mrs. A. The materials we are going to use today for our state flowers, I like using this brand Crayola markers because I know it's washable, but you can use any brand of marker that you would like. Maybe you can do your own tester to see if it's going to move with the water. So anyways, markers, crayons. Crayons are made with wax, so they're gonna stay on our paper and not move around. For your paper, you can use construction paper, computer paper. My favorite is watercolor paper, and choose what size you want. And maybe look up 3 or 4 different states. Do you have relatives, friends that live in different states? Maybe print out those flowers of those states that you're interested in. Or hey, maybe you have a state project. And then you will need like a wet paper towel or a wet napkin. This one I already used. You can tell the markers on it. So I just have it waiting on the side so it stays damp. So you'll need a wet paper towel as well for this technique. Now, you can do this project with just a pencil if you'd like. Go ahead and grab your materials. Okay, so I have my paper set up. I have my watercolor paper, and then I decided to use some construction paper just to let you know the size. I use a half sheet of paper, and then I folded it one more time. Ooh, I might make a card for someone special using these state flowers or national flowers. So I'm excited. I did do some homework and I wanted to show you my homework. This is watercolor paper, my favorite kind of paper, the markers, and this is what the water does to the markers on watercolor paper. And then I thought, wait, some of my artists, maybe they don't have watercolor paper, maybe they have construction paper. So I did the same test, same markers with water on construction paper. And then I thought, wait, maybe some of my artists won't have construction paper. Maybe they'll only have computer paper. So this is just computer paper. It's a really thin white paper. And I did the same test on it with the regular markers and water. So when we use our technique towards the end, you can do this with any one of the 3 papers. All right, so to start with, we need a thick line for our border, and I need to choose what color. Here's what it looks like in red. When I run the water over it, it turns the background to pink. Here's blue, light blue. Here's a sample really quick with the black. It makes the background gray. And here's one with purple. I'm saving this one because at the end, after we do the wipe going across, I want to go back and do my thick and thin lines to really add more contrast to my artwork. Now, let's begin. You might need to go look at what state flowers you want to have represent your family, your loved ones. This printout is just too small. So what I did for this purpose is I chose some states that I wanted to include in my artworks today, and I just printed them out so that I could see them. So you can find whichever states. Maybe you're doing a state project, maybe you are doing an artwork, whatever it may be. I've done one in purple. I haven't done one in orange. So let me start out with my thick border. I want you to leave just a little bit of white paper on the edge. It doesn't have to be super straight. I want it to be really thick, so I'm using the side of my marker. Using the side of my marker to create a thick border. Now for this one, I already have blue. Oh, you know what? I will use the purple for this one. All right. I'm doing 2 artworks at the same time. So go ahead and start by getting your thick border around your paper. And if you decided to not leave any white paper, that's fine. I just like to leave just a little bit of white paper around my border so it already looks like my artwork's framed up. Now, whatever color you did your border with, you have to outline all of your flowers with that color. Even though my flowers are not orange, maybe my flowers are purple, like for Alaska, which I want to start with. I'm still going to use my orange to outline my flowers. So Alaska, this is the Alpine Forget-Me-Not. It looks like it has 5 petals. Doesn't look like it has a stamen sticking out, but it does have like this round center. And then there's even something else in the middle. There might be some white. I'll leave that for when I'm ready to color in, but looks like it comes in a cluster, so I'm going to have that overlap another beginning of a flower. It's okay that I don't see all the petals. 4, 5. Maybe I'll only see a couple of petals sticking out. Maybe it's all the way under that one. I'll have to remember when I'm coloring in. And I think I do want a leaf for 2. Even though my leaves are green, remember I'm still using the orange to outline. Now this particular artwork, I'm gonna try and keep all my flowers inside of my frame. And that's going to be what I call closed composition. Closed composition is when you take your subject matter and it fits inside of your paper, it doesn't go off the sides. Open composition is usually my favorite. It's when the flower walks off the side or whatever your subject matter is, like only a part of the leaf is showing. So either way is okay. Let's see if I remember to do open composition on this one. All right, back to, I have Alaska represented. Ooh, Florida. Some of these states have 2 flowers that represent the state. So I'm just gonna try and do this Florida one. Hey, you know what? I want that to be the leaf. There we go. Ha! That was an easy fix. Now I'm gonna go for the flower. I'm gonna start with the middle part because it looks like it has these stamens that stick up. That's kind of little lines. I'm gonna do some thin lines instead of thick since I'm kind of unsure about the middle. All right, now I'm gonna go into my actual blossom. Whoa, I'm trying to keep this closed composition, so I'm gonna try and keep my whole flower from going outside of my borders. It is going to go under that flower. Okay, woo! So far, I've done it. I've kept the closed composition. Everything fits inside. Let me see if I can add one more flower in this area without going outside of my border. Ooh, maybe Alabama has these oak leaf hydrangea, but that's a white. So is my orange blossom. So purple, white. Peony's kind of big. All right, I think I'll go for hydrangea is such a big one. Sunflower. Maybe I'll keep this one the 2 flowers. So I'm representing Alaska and Florida for right now until I'll think of a different flower that I want to add. But I want to go to my second one. This one I'm using open composition, so it's okay if my flowers go off the side. I have a little more freedom with open composition. That's just how I feel. So for my open composition, I think I will represent New York, the rose. The rose is also our national flower. Now, a lot of people are like, I don't know how to draw a rose. Well, hey, neither do I. So I start out with 2 little marks. That's how I'm going to start my rose. And then I'm going to think about how I want my rose to go around. Here's the beginning of my rose. I'm going to do another mark that goes here, maybe another leaf or petal that goes inside. There we go. There's my beautiful rose. And if you're like, Mrs. A, that doesn't look like a rose, well, that's okay. You're allowed to have that opinion. Art is full of opinions. So to also make you see that this is a rose, maybe another clue could be the stem. Here I'm going to use a really thin line, not thick, and maybe I'll do these other little lines that come off so that you see it has thorns. So this could be a clue to how this is a rose. Maybe that rose leaf. Again, I'm trying to use really thin lines. Thick and thin lines is how I like to show contrast. Contrast means the difference or the opposite. You can do it with warm and cool colors. That makes a nice contrast. With light and dark colors. When we talk about value, that's a nice contrast. Ooh, or maybe with texture, smooth and rough. So contrast is, you can achieve that in many different ways. I'm trying to get some contrast with thick and thin lines. All right, going back to my rose, I think I want one little last thing, a little rosebud. There we go. Remember, I'm not gonna switch colors. This is a red rose, but I'm still using the purple. All right, so I have New York on here. I think I would like to have Oregon. I don't know, like I'm looking at this other sheet now, but the flowers, oh, I know, Kansas. Kansas has the wild native sunflower. I do like the sunflower. Sunflower is a big flower, so I'm just gonna go from the inside first, and then I'm gonna create the petals. Here is my sunflower. This is definitely open composition because I'm only drawing half of my sunflower because it goes off the side. And maybe I can also show, sunflower has a little bit thicker of a stem and a leaf. I don't know what I'm doing for my sunflower leaf. All right, I like it. I have a rose, a sunflower. I have New York, Kansas, and so red, yellow. Let me think of another state here. Maybe I can do Colorado. Colorado is columbine, a lavender columbine. Interesting. Oh, this is a purple flower. Hang on. I keep on changing. Oh, I'm doing California. I'm going to do the poppy. Oh, the beautiful golden California poppy. Oh, I even overlap my leaf like it's turning, or my petal like it's turning a little bit. I think it has a small little center. I do want to show the stem in this one. It has this kind of like grass-like leaf that goes with it. There we go. I have 3 states on this open composition one, and I like that it's going off the side. Let me go back to my closed composition and think if I can add one more flower. I do like the bluebonnet of Texas. That's what I'll add. Now this one comes in a lot of little bluebonnet. They kind of hang down, but I want to keep this closed composition, so I'm just going to show some of it here. I'm keeping everything inside my frame for my bluebonnet, and it's okay if it doesn't look exactly like the flower. This is my artwork, right? It might change. Okay, I have 3 states here. I have 3 states here. I'm almost ready to start adding the color. Right now, what I've done was I've outlined, right? I used the same color as my border. Now it's time to actually add the color. I'm gonna do that with the waxy crayons. I have construction paper crayons and regular crayons. You can use any type of crayon that you would like. So I'm gonna start over here for my rose. It is a red rose for New York. And then I also found out that there's national flowers. Okay, so like a nation, and I printed this out for some of my students to look at when I'm in person. Like I have Mexico, I have Australia, I have France. And so I know that the US state flower is also the rose. But so these are national flowers. India, Japan, and some of the national flowers, sometimes different nations have 2 flowers as well. Now, as I'm coloring in, I like to go light pressure and then go back and do heavy pressure. Now, the heavy pressure is going to change the value. It's going to make it a darker value of red. So, you know, sometimes I'll leave a little bit of a light pressure, but I actually enjoy using the crayons with a heavy pressure to get a darker value. Just another way to achieve contrast. And we can do that with technique even. So light pressure gets you a really light red. There we go, it's oh so light in the middle. And then I'm gonna go back and I'm going to use heavy pressure in some areas so that my rose has light and dark color. Gives it a nice contrast. Even though I'm using the same color, I achieved contrast with light and dark. Okay. On to the next thing. I'm just gonna put my crayons out. That's gonna make it easier for me to reach. Okay. Yellow for my sunflower. And again, I wanna have some type of contrast. I don't want just the yellow. So I'm gonna find my yellow orange as well. I like adding 2 colors in my flowers. There we go. So I'm applying pressure, making sure I color all the way inside of my lines to that shape I made for the flower petal, coloring right inside my lines. And if I go outside my lines, that's okay too. This is my artwork. I can do that. You are allowed to change the color. Maybe you're like, I want to have a rainbow sunflower. Do it. Do it. Ooh, I like the seeds in the sunflower. I want to use this nice brown. This is a nice warm brown. I really like this one. I'm even going to go in with an orange on top of my brown. Make sure I color the white of the paper away. All right. Sunflower. Golden poppy. I think I'll use a yellow orange and red orange. Let me see. Yes, that made a nice contrast. A nice difference. Ooh, I am liking this. And I'm excited. If you're not ready to color with the crayons yet, no worries. Work at your own pace. I've really been going into this one that has open composition. Remember, my flowers, they didn't fit inside of my frame. They went outside the frame. And so I call it open, like the door was open. Composition. I'm gonna color right over my purple with the green. My sunflower, I want a lighter green. There we go. Oh, maybe I will add a little dark green in my leaf here. And last but not least, my poppy. I think it really is a light green. Oh my goodness, I am ready for the water wash on this. But I'm gonna get to this one now. Ooh, I could have done a little pink in my rose. It's not too late. It's not too late. I'm gonna add a little pink. Make sure I colored away any white that was inside of my flower. There we go. All right, time for, this is my construction paper one. And Florida, the orange blossom, it's kind of like a light green and white. Now, you may be thinking, Mrs. A, this is so silly. You're using a white crayon on white paper and you can't even see it. Okay, yeah, that's true. It's actually kind of hard right now. I don't know if I've colored all the way to the edge of my lines. I guess I'll have to wait to find out when I add the water. Oh man, maybe I should not have chosen a white flower. This is really challenging. But sometimes I like the challenge, right? Sometimes it's fun to jump into the unknown with the art. We are kind of like little scientists. Maybe we'll invent a new color, a new technique. Like scientists doing experiments. I had to do the experiments for you. And this was so fun. I think I'll put this in my art book so that I'll always remember that I can do this on 3 different papers, and that's the result with the same type of crayons. So we are art scientists creating beautiful art and not quite knowing how it might work out or turn out. but we're gonna keep going. So I did add some light green to my white. Okay, ta-da. I think the very middle is like a yellow though. All right, and I did do the Alaska Forget-Me-Nots are purple with a little white in the middle. Interesting. Well, that's a really dark purple. Let me see. Sometimes there's a purple violet, and oh, I was using the blue purple, which I think is darker. Let me use the other one. Ooh, I like this purple. There we go. And it has that little bit of white in the center. There we go. Trying to do this quickly. Whew, sometimes I have to shake out my hand. So maybe you have a state project coming up, like especially if you're in 5th grade or maybe 4th grade and you're looking into the different states or maybe your own state. This is a great project to do. Find the the state flower. Every state has their own state bird, their own state fish, which I thought that was interesting. I think I want to use this light green. No, it looks like more of a dark green. I'm going to use a dark green for my Alaska flower here. My alpine forgot-me-not. Now I know the state flower for Alaska. Hey, you do too now. And, oh, that's part of that. Okay. Let me not forget to add the white inside of all these flowers, because that is easy to forget since I can't see the white. Ooh. Right here. It looks like the center is yellow. All right, moving on to my last flower to color, and then comes the exciting part. I say exciting part because it's kind of like the science project part. First we use the marker, then we use the crayon, then we're gonna move the marker around, and that's how we're gonna get that subtle, nice change for our background. Sometimes the details in art are very subtle or very minute, or how else can I say this? Just tiny little changes make all the difference. And we're gonna change the background color. That's what we're gonna do. All right, Florida flower and leaf, almost done. I feel like I'm going fast because I want to show you what we can do. So please, 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 if you are like barely getting to the crayon part because you were still outlining your flowers, please don't worry. I'm just trying to do this kind of fast in case I do have some fast artists, because you can always press pause. You can always watch the video again. I think there's a little bit of white on these Texas bluebonnets. All right, so I have Alaska, Texas, and Florida represented in this artwork. And I have California, Kansas, and New York represented in this artwork. What a thoughtful way to represent states. What a fun way to create art. Sometimes I just create art for no reason, but right now I decided to put some special states that I know someone, have a family member, or a loved one living in that state. It's time for the magic. Here we go. I just took a paper towel and I wet it. So this is a damp paper towel, and I'm going to run it across, and I'm going to go right across my flowers. And I'm just going to do the top part really quick. Now, this is not going to change the colors of my crayons. Crayons are made with wax. What it's going to do is take the marker. That's why I wanted a thick edge, a thick border. So I've only done the top right now. I'm wondering if you can see how it's changing the paper color. I'm going to go across the whole thing. You can go up and down, you can go in swirls, however you want. I'm trying to touch that purple marker on the side to change the background color. Now, time for this one here, for my orange. There we go. And this is done on regular construction paper. Let me see if you can tell the difference between the top and the bottom. You know, I just barely started on the top area. And look at, now my white flower is showing up as white. See? Now all of that, using that white crayon where it was really hard to see on the white paper, now I can see it. And it's just such a subtle, small little change of that background color. Now I don't want to over rub on anything because then you might get a hole in your paper. But I want to show you while these two are drying, in fact, I don't even need to let them dry. I could go right now with any color of marker to do my outlining. And I wanted to show you this one because I went back and did some details. I added some extra small little dots along with those bigger mark makings to show the texture of the cactus. Here I have California, I have Arizona, and I believe this one was, Alabama? I forget, I'm gonna have to look at my flowers. But I went back and I outlined everything with a very thin black. Thin black, but I wanted you to see the texture of my cactus. So I did broken line. It's fun to talk about line. Here's one that is completely dry and I've lost a lot of my details. The outlining of these white flowers is gone because the water really took that marker away. So while this one and this one are drying, I'll take the black. I like the black for my details. And I don't have to detail everything. I'm gonna go back across my sunflower. I'm gonna take some of those petals and just re-outline them. I could even do some little dots in the middle. Kind of show those seeds, add that texture. There we go. Definitely for these white flowers. I like that my line varies. It doesn't have to be so straight. You can have a little wiggle to it. I think it makes it look a little more natural. Using the very tip of my marker for a very thin line, and I'm letting it skip around. I'm letting my line skip around. There we go. And yeah, for my poppy. You know what, I'm gonna use thicker line to kind of show the weight, or to maybe think of the bottom part, maybe there's a shadow, and then a thin line for the top part. A thin line for these wispy leaves. A thicker line right here, and then a thin line. Creating my contrast with line, thick and thin line. There we go. All right, time to do that to ours. I think we gave enough time for it to kind of dry. So I'm going to go back across, and definitely, I love this one. This was so fun. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna use the green. I haven't really done that. I'm gonna use the green to outline my full leaves for my flowers, even in the middle there. Ooh, the green kind of looks like it's black anyways. It comes out really like a dark value since my paper's still a little wet. I like it. Maybe I'll outline my bluebonnets with blue. Maybe I'll outline my Alaskan alpine forget-me-nots in purple. See how that looks. Sometimes I use just the black, but this one I decided to do something different. I'm outlining with like the color of the flower. Purple. Ooh, I want to do some thick and some thin. Tip of the marker or the side of the marker. This I'm going to do thin. I want to show that circle in the middle. Go over that. All right, now for my Florida flower. I don't know what I want to outline it with. I'm going to go back to the green. I'm gonna do really thin line. Really thin line for that. Using thick and thin line to add contrast. There we go. Now I have an artwork that is open composition. I have an artwork that is closed composition. And this is my favorite part, going back for the details. And you can always add another flower even though you've already done the water. I would just make sure it's dry because I want to make sure that the crayons don't rip my paper if it's wet. I can always use marker on wet paper. That's not a problem. But if I was going to use those waxy crayons, I would need to be careful or wait until my paper dries. And oh, I just love how the rose definitely has the thorns. I wanted to show that that is different from all the other flowers. Nice thin line for my delicate poppy here. And I'm almost done, you guys. There's one last detail I think that looks really nice. And that's because we took so much from our border, it's to go back and put that border down. So like, I'm going to darken my border right now. This is how it looks. I could call this a done deal, but I'm just gonna go back and again, sometimes it's those little details like the darkness or lightness of a color. Sometimes it's those small contrasts like thick and thin line that make all the difference. And right now I definitely have some values. I have a dark value of purple and a light value of purple for the background now. Oops, there we go. Oh, I love these. And because I folded this paper, look, it's now its own card. What a special way to send this to family members or loved ones. And then you can explain why you did this art on the inside, or you can explain that these are not just flowers, this represents states of where our loved ones or our friends are. Sometimes there's reasons for making art. Sometimes there's no reason. Either way is okay. So just to go over one more time, we talked about contrast. That's the difference. We used contrast with light and dark of colors when we put the water across. We used contrast with our thick and thin line. That was a nice difference in our artwork. And open and closed composition. I'm trying to find that little paper. Open composition is when our artwork walks off the side. Closed composition is when it all stays inside of our frame. So there's an example of both of those. Either way is okay. I cannot wait to see what you create. Thank you for creating with me today.